There's nowhere else to start with this list, because everyone knows when you're picking a flavor, the benchmark is vanilla, and that's what McDonald's is, the default option of fast food. And it makes sense, being that they are undisputably the most popular fast food restaurant on earth, and also the masters of brand marketing. McDonald's doesn't ever aim to make high-quality food, noticeably unique creations, or anything above the line of edible, because that's not what McDonald's is all about. McDonald's is about making sure that every time you slurp down one of their products, they reinforce your positive memory bank of what it's like to eat at McDonald's. That's why in recent years, McDonald's specialty meals have just been existing menu items with unrelated celebrity names plastered on them. The food at McDonald's doesn't matter remotely in comparison to the concept of McDonald's. And while I don't think the food is especially bad, especially not for what you pay for it, it's certainly never going to be anything I'd proclaim delicious, and will forever remain the king of, yeah, it's not bad, I guess. And I'm glad we started with a flat even equator for our contest, because it's time to take a harsh nosedive downward. Burger King is more mayonnaise emporium than monarch of ground beef. Eating at Burger King is the equivalent to eating an entire spoonful and a half of Miracle Whip and then trying to find room in your mouth to mash in either a kitchen sponge or a shoe insole, depending on whether or not you ordered the chicken sandwich or the Whopper. It's pretty telling that the most celebrated menu item at Burger King is the chicken fries, a limpy, overly processed version of the staple chicken tenders kids meal, and a food you can find an exact copy of in dozens of different brands in your supermarket's frozen food section. Anyone who says that they like Burger King is a goddamn nightmare of a human being whose opinions on food should be invalidated, and they should be avoided at all costs. What an incredibly worthless franchise. For each and every ingredient in a Subway restaurant, I can purchase the exact same thing at my grocery store and make the exact same sandwich for half the cost, provided I have a toaster. Or maybe all I need is a microwave, because Subway thinks pre-cooked microwave chicken is a worthwhile protein for me to put on pants and leave my house for. Subway is the inevitable darkness beyond the twilight of day of the fast food restaurants. It's cheap and easy as hell to make cold-cut sandwiches, so of course some people are going to muscle their way into the competition with the easiest and cheapest ways to do it possible. Maybe the only saving grace of Subway is that they bake their own bread fresh in-house. Oh, did I say bread? I meant cookies. After all, they got into hot water a few years back due to their bread containing too much sugar to be legally called bread in Ireland. I'm not that surprised, though. After all, they've also tried to relabel chicken and pork as tuna, 11 inches as a foot long, and a man's quest to get into smaller pants as a weight loss campaign. I struggled to write something for Wendy's because I can't even properly hate. The food's usually good, and they bring in enough variety specialties to keep me from getting bored. I had a lot to say about Smug Wendy and the whole culture surrounding that publicity stunt, but that's not really a critique of the restaurant and more just a bunch of really stupid children falling for targeted marketing and performing a restaurant's advertising campaign for them. I guess the worst teardown I have of Wendy's is the clientele is pretty fucking embarrassing. Alongside their Twitter clapbacks, Wendy's is loaded up with Rick and Morty crossover products, and now they're apparently roping in Demon Slayer. At least when Arby's shills popular youth market franchises, they make little art pieces out with it, and McDonald's, you know that they're marketing towards children and boomers. With Wendy's, all it takes is a 5-minute Photoshop job, and the internet-obsessed young adults clamor it up like it's not obviously a big, multi-billion-dollar corporation using pop culture trends to steal your dollar that you earned by not immediately spending it on V-Bucks. Wendy's, for some reason, gets a pass in corporately exercising what everyone else is getting sick of when they see it everywhere else. Shoddily cramming in as many references and current trend properties as you can to make a buck. But I guess that's because they're slightly snarky about it, so they get a pass. Because we're not ever allowed to take anything seriously anymore. Fuck you, Taco Bell. You're one of the few entries on this list that evolved me from displeasure to genuine anger. In 2019, Taco Bell made a push to declutter their menu and get the skeletons out of their closet, which is bullshit boardroom language for streamlining their menu to cut down on costs. Normally this would be okay, but they went ahead and transformed themselves from a wacky build-your-own Tex-Mex fiesta to the most boring, uninspired taco-based restaurant I've ever seen. The irony is they allegedly did it all in service of making ordering quicker and more streamlined, but it's doubled my time spent at a Taco Bell because I spend a few minutes more at the menu thinking, ah, God, Not only is it so boring, but every fucking item's the same. What's the point? But I guess the boardroom was really ass-pumping out ideas lately, because we've been stuck with nacho fries for seemingly the entire last year. I don't hate them, but claiming French fries is your exciting new menu item at your Tex-Mex restaurant is like claiming Terry Crews is the next Prime Minister of Japan. I mean, yeah, he could be, and that's pretty cool if it happened, but something about the whole thing seems off. Starbucks is a fast food restaurant, because it's actually an ice cream parlor in disguise. People thinking Starbucks is just a coffee shop is the reason we're at a 41.9% obesity rating and climbing. No one goes to Starbucks just to order a regular plain black coffee, and if they do, it's because they lack any other options for it, and I can bet you they're not savoring that flavor. Starbucks is a wonderful dessert bar that helps you ruin your sleep schedule, drink half your day's worth in calories, and nourish your oncoming diabetic coma all in a one-stop shop. Sorry, guys. I can't properly review this one because I'm bisexual, and therefore I'm legally not allowed to eat at a Chick-fil-A. I'd sure love to partake in a decent fried chicken sandwich, but I've already read the company's values on their hiring website and taken witness to their history of donating to anti-LGBT organizations and noted the bigoted actions of their owner and accepted that I'll be burning in hell when I die instead of living a lifetime scarfing down their somehow always soggy French fries. But this is a capitalist world, where people's pleasure outweighs their principles, and I'd probably be regularly eating Chick-fil-A if I didn't happen to have a PDQ in my area, which is Chick-fil-A, but better in every possible conceivable way. No wonder they're flying their way up the East Coast, even though they've been given the dumbest name on the planet of people dedicated to quality. It's because they know that maybe when you own a fast food restaurant, you should focus on making good food instead of forcing high school kids to say "my pleasure" enough times that everyone involved should be uncomfortable, but somehow they aren't. Oh, sorry, it's just Dunkin' now. It's not Dunkin' Donuts, it's just Dunkin'. Because the ironic American public came to our donut shop for literally anything else so much that we decided to Bushido our brand name in half. So without a focus on donuts, what do you get? A restaurant that serves top to bottom mediocre at best breakfast sandwiches and wins coffee by default because every other restaurant fucks it up badly with cheap beans or way too much sugar. Pass. Chipotle's most impressive feat is easily being twice as expensive as each and every local Mexican restaurant in your area. Yet where they stay competitive is making your associated bowel movements the next day just as watery and painful. Sonic seems to be employing the old-timey tradition of employing a soda jerk, because absolutely no one thinks fondly of Sonic's food, and the only thing people go there for is their extensive beverage list. I have a challenge for all of you watching this who eat at Sonic. Name a hot food item, not a drink, not a standardized dessert like ice cream, but a hot, cooked food item they sell at Sonic that's worth going to Sonic for. Go ahead, I'll wait. The editing's gonna cut me off soon, but just imagine I stood here waiting for 10,000 years. I don't need to roast KFC. KFC was already fully and properly roasted by motherfucking Colonel Sanders himself. Quick history lesson. Colonel Sanders was the man who made Kentucky Fried Chicken, as we all know. And by the time he turned 73 years old, he found his new business explosion was too much for him to handle in old age. So he sold the KFC Corporation off to a group of wealthy business owners to manage and expand it even further. From that point on, Colonel Sanders was completely separate from the KFC brand, but acted as a sort of living mascot for the company. Basically, he no longer maintained any control over the company, nor had any input in the kitchen. So now in 1976, Colonel Sanders is 86 years old. He decided to stop by at a KFC restaurant and peeked his head into the kitchen to see how everything was operating. Here are some direct quotes from his experience. I have not made any of these up, nor am I embellishing them. I know I do a lot of fuck around with people goofs. These are real things that Colonel Sanders said about a KFC restaurant he visited in 1976. That's too much black. It should be golden brown. You're frying for 12 minutes. That's 6 minutes too long. What's more, your frying fat should have been changed a week ago. That's the worst fried chicken I've ever seen. When the manager showed him how they make mashed potatoes and gravy, he interrupted the manager's explanation with, "And then you have wallpaper paste. Next, suppose you add some of this brown gravy stuff, and then you have sludge. There's no way anyone can get me to swallow those potatoes." And this coleslaw, they just won't listen to me. It should be chopped, not shredded, and it should be made with Miracle Whip. Anything else turns gray, and there should be nothing in it but cabbage, no carrots. This ain't no goddamn fried chicken, no matter what some slick, silk-suited son of a bitch says. And here's the best one. This one is so good that KFC Corporation sued him for libel over it. My God, that gravy is horrible. They buy tap water for 15 to 20 cents 1,000 gallons and then mix it with flour and starch and end up with pure wallpaper paste. And I know wallpaper paste, by God, because I've seen my mother make it. To the wallpaper paste, they add some sludge and sell it for 65 to 75 cents a pint. There's no nutrition in it, and they ought to not be allowed to sell it. And another thing, that new crispy chicken is nothing in the world but a damn fried dough ball stuck on some chicken. Yeah, so if you like KFC, you enjoy eating wallpaper paste. Arby's is like a decently good magician because their entire brand is a trick. The worst thing about Arby's is the roast beef sandwiches. The fries, pretty good. The mozzarella sticks, pretty fucking good. And they've got a smattering of sandwiches on the board that are nice and tasty. But their pride and joy roast beef sandwich is like tonguing a cow's worn out vagina. Arby's has been around since the 60s, and that means it's been about 60 years running that no marketing executive have noticed that everyone's more interested in the side quests of their AAA fast food franchise game than the actual game. There's hope for you yet, Arby's. Just take a minute to analyze what actually works for you and stop trying to force genuine shit sandwiches down the customers' throats. If you've ever ordered anything from Dairy Queen that wasn't ice cream, you deserve to be thrown in a gulag. I'm not sure whether the express applies to the speed in which you get your food or the speed in which the shit's gonna fly out of your asshole after eating their 90% breading and sauce to 10% chicken protein-based concoctions. Their next secret menu item should be the burger that when you eat it, you finally realize how insanely overrated this restaurant is and that it's just another tick on the board of things California does a really shitty job at but think they're the best at. Oh hey. Speaking of overrated, I'm looking at you, Midwest. Yeah, the Italian beef sandwiches are pretty spankin', but you still have to ignore the fact that their French fries are somehow the worst on the planet, and the cake shakes are a gimmick and nothing more. Challenge yourself to a feat harder than climbing Mount Everest and try to eat at a Portillo's in the Midwest at dinner time. Enjoy waiting 45 minutes to an hour for a fucking hot dog. We're back in the chicken fries argument. I'm fighting hand over fist for something that I can find a carbon copy of in my local freezer section. We're a food culture that's far away from culture and instead tucked away neatly into the throngs of familiarity. While that describes the notion of fast food chains as a whole, it definitely fully describes the wholly unwarranted messiah complex Portillo's has developed, Chicago mafia involvement or otherwise. Popeyes feels like the Waffle House of fast food. I don't go there when I want to eat. I go there when I want to enter a fist fight. I don't think I've ever met a friendly staff member at Popeyes. It's not that they were unfriendly, it's just they always considered having to serve me food as a chore, and occasionally sized me up to see if I either had a mean uppercut or a knife in my pocket. When there's prominent news articles from places such as Business Insider about how debuting your new chicken sandwich resulted in a multitude of fatal stabbings, multi-man brawls, and vehicle assaults, I think Popeyes might be the first restaurant chain to encourage a no shirt, no shoes policy, because that's the 6th rule of Fight Club. Whataburger should end in a question mark, because it alludes to the sentence, what, a burger that doesn't suck ass is all it takes to rank highly on the fast food tier list? While Whataburger is easily location dependent, as is nearly every entry on this list, they get high marks by following the old adage of sometimes you don't need to do anything new, sometimes doing things right is good enough. Whataburger is the best B student I've ever seen. They've never approached true culinary heights, but what they do is good enough to earn them solid marks for every grade. Not much about them to roast that isn't just generic comments on the fast food industry as a whole. The fact that all it takes to put them high on the leaderboard is the notion that they don't usually suck dick is a stark reminder of the kind of competition we're holding here. Good God almighty, I am struggling to think of a more unhealthy fast food restaurant on the planet. When both your burger and fries easily hit the 1,000 calorie mark each, maybe reconsider ordering anything other than water to drink. But that's okay, because while the burgers are slightly bigger than average and they give you enough fries to sink a battleship, even without those portion sizes, Five Guys has this marvelous ability to never leave your stomach for 25 consecutive hours. By the year 2030, most major corporations are going to add an additional personal sick day to their employee calendar in case anyone wants to go home early after having Five Guys for lunch. Either they do that or they lose sales regardless, because the pure cholesterol paralysis is going to render their workforce paralyzed. And some locations even offer milkshakes too. I'll be honest, if my local Five Guys closes down, I'm not going to see it as a business motion, but rather an acknowledgement of a public health crisis. Take what I said about Five Guys earlier, shrink down the portion sizes, but keep the amount of grease, and you have Checkers. I will stand atop the highest mountains in all of America and be the first to say Checkers has the best fries. Fight me on that. But any order of the Fry Lover XL size comes at a cost of both $4.29 and a year off my life. Checkers proudly stands for what fast food is, and doesn't give a shit about labels. It knows that it's unhealthy, salty, greasy, sugary, and dense, and it unflinchingly stares you in the eyes as you wordlessly both share that bit of trivia when they ask if you'll want to make your meal a combo. Other restaurants on this list are where I go when I'm hungry. Checkers is where I go when I want my stomach to experience pure evil. These are all the same restaurant. Underwhelming fried chicken and nothing else of value. Let me know if any of these are your favorite fast food restaurant, so I can let you know that you've got the personality of a blank sticky note. Ah, how the mighty have fallen. White Castle was the first fast food restaurant back in 1921, and today they're usually at the bottom 50 of the rankings. How did this happen? Well, maybe it's because most people don't want to eat a meal that has a 100% hot fart guarantee attached to it. Maybe White Castle could double back and advertise that their food is great for cleaning you out if you're bloated, but the mud butt crowd admittedly is a fairly small demographic. Okay. A&W is not that popular of a fast food franchise, I know, but I included this on the list because I wanted to tell you all a completely true story that happened to me. I've only eaten at A&W once in my entire life, and it was for the sole purpose of trying A&W for the first time in my life. I ordered a burger, a fries, and a root beer float. It took 3 separate employees 15 minutes to figure out what was in and how to make a root beer float at a restaurant named after a brand of root beer. I think it's pretty obvious why I've never been back. Culver's, you are so close to perfect. Holy shit, you are so close to perfect. Delicious food, excellent menu variety, admittedly a bit expensive, but the quality and consistency of the food far and away makes up for it. Unconventional and delicious sides like cheese curds, a ridiculously great frozen custard selection, except you're so fucking boring. From what I've seen, Culver's rolls out special limited time items at a rate of 1 per year, and they've never added anything to the menu full time since they've opened in 1984. After you eat Culver's a handful of times, you've effectively tried the entire menu for life. Culver's kicks ass, don't get me wrong, but it's hard to get excited for it a lot of the time. It's a great option if you want to make sure that you have something scrumptious really quick, but if you're looking for a restaurant to help spice up your life, it's not going to leave an impression. Wingstop should change their name to Stop Wings, because they consistently make the worst chicken wings I've ever had in my life. This really isn't much of a roast so much as it's the truth. I've never met another human being in my entire life who likes Wingstop, and I've never felt more confident in my life than when I proclaimed Wingstop to be the worst chicken wings in America just 5 seconds ago. Boy, oh boy, do I wish I could taste their food. It's just I've been waiting in the drive-thru line for 4 days now, and I was told to browse the menu while they assist other customers eons ago, and I haven't seen anybody since. Yeah, okay, I've had Steak and Shake before, and it's fine, but their consistent negligent under-hiring practices sour any taste I could have in my mouth. And that gives Steak and Shake a never-ending air of cheapness. The whole restaurant feels like it's trying to cut corners wherever it can, and that behind the walls of the establishment is rubber bands, duct tape, and slave labor lawsuits waiting to happen. I don't ever really feel good supporting this franchise, and I don't think I ever will until I meet a Steak and Shake employee who is genuinely happy at their job. And I don't think that's going to ever happen until about the year 2088, when due to impending lawsuit costs, Steak and Shake is going to be closed down for good, and the employees can tell me stories of how they feel that their shackles have finally been broken. Jersey Mike's has this cool secret menu item where if you ask for a sub Mike's way, they'll drown it in so much vinegar and oil it'll become a sloppy, drunken mess. In fact, Mike's Way is such a secret that it's plastered all over the menu and employees ask you if you'd like it for every sub. I think Jersey Mike's is one of the last few family businesses. After all, when a customer suffers a fatal coronary infarction from eating their food, their children will inherit the estate and be able to use that on even more Jersey Mike's. Jimmy's Way, Mike's Way, Subway. The only way I need to be shown in relation to all these hoagie chains is the way towards not needing to submerge my sandwich in oil to get some flavor in my next bite. Jimmy John's claim to fame, aside from the fact that everything they make is 90% lettuce, is that they make their sandwiches quickly. Which is great because the slogan immediately informs you that absolutely nothing will be prepped to order, and you should maybe take a minute to consider that it really isn't all that impressive to make a borderline pre-made sandwich quickly. The only edge that Jimmy John's has and ever will have on the competition is their convenience factor if your corporate mandated lunch break only happens to be 3¼ minutes. Beyond that, every single other sub shop, both local and chain, is better value for the money. And Jimmy John's only real sticking point will be when they finally get closed down by the FDA for trying to claim Jimmy mustard is literally anything other than coarse ground mustard they relabeled from the supermarket down the street. It's every other sub chain except the food is hot. God, I'm so fucking bored. And finally, Wawa. Now I know what you're thinking. Wawa's a gas station. Why the fuck are they on this list? Because how sad is it that a gas station chain operates as a better fast food restaurant than 90% of the entries on this list? Open 24 hours, huge amount of variety, cheap food, fresh baked bread for all their sandwiches, a ton of rotating specials, and best of all, you get to fill up your car and buy some snacks at the same time. And every time I eat something there that piques my brain into saying, oh, it's a gas station, this food's gonna be super fucking gross, it often ends up being reasonably tasty. Wawa always reminds me that fast food restaurants should try harder. I'm a night owl, because when I'm awake at 3 a.m., I thankfully don't have to deal with any of you fucking people. And that often means my food options are kinda limited. I could run the risk of hitting up the local 24-hour McDonald's or late-night Taco Bell, but I always feel like I'm taking a huge gamble on receiving anything edible or not being stuck in a long line, because those are the only options for people up that late. Whereas Wawa, because of how they function as a true 24-hour establishment, the food consistency is way higher. Did they forget something on your order? Just ask them politely to fix it. Did the late-night drive-thru at the 3 a.m. Burger King fuck up your order? Haha, the inside's locked and the drive-thru line is long as fuck, so go fuck yourself. Wawa knows how to cater to people with alternative sleep schedules, and that's a hefty amount of people who don't get to do it by choice like me, or people who don't have any other options. Picture anyone who works a late night shift or anyone currently traveling. Wawa is there for them. And I can't say that about any other late night fast food franchise, whether it's their random closures for no reason, or the ice cream machine going down for no reason, or being understaffed for no reason, or some reason preventing me from feeling like I can get a decent bite to eat just because I'm awake when most people aren't. Wawa food is far from remarkable, but it's good enough, and it's the consistency that I've seen surrounding it that makes it a gold star staple in my eyes, regardless of gas station attachment. With fast food restaurants, the irony is I feel like I never know what I'm gonna get, but with Wawa, while I've ordered some things I didn't particularly enjoy the taste of, I've never once had them serve me something gross. And trust me, ask anyone. Fast food restaurants can get real fucking gross.